All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of the Office 365 Pulse. I'm sorry I missed you guys last week. I had my feet in the sand and a drink in my hand, and it was a great week. I
And
definitely
stormtroopers around you.
we did. So we went on the Star Wars Day at Sea cruise. It was very nerdy, very fun, had a blast. But I didn't think about SharePoint or Office 365 not once last week. I mean, I did still log in and check because I was checking my email every once in a while. But to be honest, it was definitely a technology-free week. It was great. But Tom and Adam gave you guys some great information last week, and then this week, Tom, it's his turn to be off playing and gavelanting. So maybe Adam, you get a vacation sometime soon.
Well, I'm
Let me
taking off
know.
the next 2 days. I just, I'm so addicted to the pulse that I had to stay to do the recording.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate it. Well, cool. Well, let's just kind of jump right into it. Today, we've kind of spent some time looking through the roadmap and seeing what's going on, and some interesting things happening, some things I maybe didn't really expect. And so I think we're going to start out with the stuff that we're like, huh, I didn't really expect that. And then we can jump into some of the stuff that we think is really cool. So the first one, we do have something that was in development that got canceled. And so
Got
Microsoft
canceled
Secure
today.
Score support for new controls. I mean, yeah, just today they changed the status from in development and canceled. And this was where you were going to be able to use Secure Score to add new controls for supporting things like Teams, SharePoint tagging, and Microsoft Dynamics. And so, Adam, I mean, what do you think about them pulling this?
Yeah, it was crazy. They also took out integration with Azure Information Protection, which might have been the most shocking thing, and that along with Teams with me. Honestly, when we both saw this, we were just kind of like, wait, what? Like,
Exactly.
it really was strange to see. If you guys haven't done anything with Secure Score, that's a topic for another day, but we'd encourage you to look into a really, really cool tool that Microsoft has given to people to basically assess how secure your tenant is. And they have actually invested a lot of time and effort into building up this thing and promoting it. And some of the stuff like Teams and Azure Information Protection and Dynamics and SharePoint tags, like we all know how much they care about those. So we were almost at a loss for words when we saw that this was canceled. I think once the shock wore off a little bit, I think both Jen and I kind of feel that this probably isn't the full story, right? Like we said, this literally happened today. It's like when we were doing our research before hopping on, we saw, hey, this thing happened. We imagine this is probably being repackaged in another way or relooked at, or
Yeah.
the controls are being put somewhere else, something like that. So definitely was crazy knowing how much they've invested in Secure Score and knowing how important these things are to just suddenly see them not canceled in development, but realistically, I imagine they're being packaged somewhere else. So what are your thoughts?
But I think it's the same thing. It's canceled, but it's not gone. It's not forgotten. It's not, it could have been that the approach that they were building it out on, they decided wasn't viable, so they canceled it. There could be a million different reasons. So I think this is one that we'll definitely have to follow closely and kind of see what's going on with it. I definitely don't think Secure Score is going away, and I think they're going to continue to expand it. I mean, Secure Score is how you determine where you stand and when you're using the tools. It's such a very important tool. So I think it's going to come back in some other form. We'll probably see it on the roadmap under some different category or maybe some different ID number pretty soon. So we'll definitely be watching for that one. The good news is that was really the only one in the canceled bucket this week. So that kind of made me happy. And we saw some really cool ones moving to maybe a happier topic, moving into the development bucket.
Yeah,
And so
and new things added to the roadmap as a whole too that we saw that we were some of them Jen and I were doing happy dances about because it directly impacts our work kind of greatly, which is awesome.
yeah, so the first two I'm going to talk about are two things getting added to in development, which is really the first step of it making it to the platforms. But Microsoft Planner for G4, GCC, and GCC High. So that has been added in development. So that means Planner is coming to GCC and GCC High, as well as Teams availability for government DoD. So that's another exciting one as well. So I know for a lot of our government users, and Adam and I work very closely with a lot of government and it's like it's coming. I promise. There's all this cool stuff that everyone talks about. It's coming. It's coming. And so it's made it to the roadmap in an in development status, which means that's really it's coming along the way. I think we've always known it's coming. They've always said it's coming. Now we're tracking a roadmap item, so I'm pretty excited about those.
Yeah, I can remember going through and looking at the GCC and GCC High and DoD like Microsoft informational pages, and it had like availability. And this was like 8 months ago, guys. And it'd be like Teams available. I was like, oh hey, cool, great, Teams is available. And there's one of those like asterisks with a number by it, and you go and look at the subprint, and it's like coming soon. You're like, well, what does that mean? So it's great. It's great to see
not
this
available.
stuff. Yeah, exactly, right. But so it's great to see this stuff added to the roadmap. Jen, for sure, I am one of the biggest cheerleaders for Teams. I think it's wonderful. I think everyone should be using it. And so seeing some development going there, really, really cool, really excited, especially for, as you said, the people we know that are out in the government space I feel like it's kind of like, you're lost on an island and you see a plane overhead, but you can't quite get to it. Like you're in the cloud, you're going to great features, but like so often it's like, well, you see all your friends playing with the cool toys, but it's just out of reach for you. So excited to see the development there.
Yeah, so that's really exciting. And some of the other things I thought that were really, really exciting that have been added kind of in development is like Planner. So I love Planner. I think it's great for a lot of small tasks, little projects that we're working on where we need to keep track of what's going on. But a lot of times it's repeatable. And so, maybe I'm doing the same 10 tasks, across different plans. And so the ability to take a copy of a plan is going to be a great feature. So maybe when I start a new project, I'm going to have the same 22 tasks that are part of that new project, and so I won't have to recreate all of those. So copying...
You're someone who does the same project over and over again just when a new contract comes in, and up until now, every time you did a plan, you had to literally recreate everything.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about that because being able to copy a plan is also going to mean that poor Betty in accounting, she's going to be able to click the button and make it happen. So I'm really excited to see that in development. And then, Adam, wasn't there another one about maybe task notifications or something like that going to Teams? Tell us about that one.
Yeah, it's right on the line of the other stuff we've been talking about for the last 5 minutes or so. So basically, it's cool to see them continue to develop in Planner and continue to develop in Teams. I think this shows a good willingness to hear the user voice that's out there and continue to develop in the applications and help people out. But basically, Planner is one of the tabs you can add into Teams, right, to give you notifications, which hopefully encourages the use of Planner. Or they're making it now where there's basically a notification will now show up. So if anyone's familiar with a Teams client, it's an all-encompassing client, but in the top right, kind of like you sometimes have in Skype, there's a little notification that will tell you when new things are going on. So, hey, someone sent you a new IM, something like that. Well, they've made it now if a new task gets added in onto Planner that you're assigned to or associated with, you'll actually get a notification. And I think this is a great usability thing. More than anything. Totally. Yeah, exactly. More than anything, right? Like I've used Planner a decent amount in my work where going through and, hey, we have a project on and people assigned tasks. You had to constantly go out and check Planner to make sure, hey, was anything new assigned to me? Is anything new going on? And yeah, it's cool that they put that in Teams to make it more accessible. But these notifications, like honestly, I'm one of those people. I'm going to forget about that tab exists, right? Like I'm going to be focused on this problem that I'm going through to solve. And so the fact that like, hey, by the way, this new thing came in, like that makes it just so much easier for me. And again, love to see that development, love to see this, simple quality of life improvements coming in around these applications to make our life easier.
And totally, and as a reminder, in development means Microsoft is working on it. It's got the secret sauce behind the scenes. They're deving it out. They're trying new things. You'll probably see them in the Microsoft tech community posting questions and trying to get feedback. So it's something that's in development. It's not something that any of us would see yet, but it's something that we know that they're working on and something that's coming. So that's pretty cool. But then when we get into the next category, which I'm really excited about, these are items that have gone from in development to rolling out. And so what that means is if you're a first release customer, you're going to start to see it in your environment. Now remember, first release is going to go in phases. So if Adam and I both have a tenant that's in first release, that doesn't necessarily mean we're both going to have the same features, but it's going to roll out in a very controlled manner. And so there's a couple of things that are in development that are now rolling out. One of them is a default file location for, SharePoint. And this is for our Yammer users out there. I know I don't work personally with a lot of them, but I know there still is a big Yammer following. It won't go away. But Yammer is now going to make SharePoint the default file location if you add a file. So we're getting some more of that integration tightly between Yammer and SharePoint. And so I know folks are going to be really, really excited about that one. So that one was in there, and I thought it was really cool. And then a couple others that I thought were really cool was Flow to approve hub site joins. And so if someone joins a hub site, a Flow is going to actually kick off and go through an approval process, which will make it a lot easier to kind of manage and control that. So Adam, have you done much with hub sites, or you know much about that, or have any opinions?
Yeah, so hub sites as a whole are cool, right? So I think we know out of the three of us that are involved with this, I'm probably the not the SharePoint noob, but I'm the person who's the least invested with SharePoint. Hub sites are built for people like me. What a hub site allows you to do is allows you to go in and design one look and feel of something that you really like, and then just Control-C, just copy-paste. It basically sets a theme for an area and carries that theme throughout, which is awesome. I think it's great. It makes it easier. If you're not, a person that has a $100,000 dev sitting behind you developing this beautiful SharePoint site, it makes it so you can go in and kind of use it and at least make it presentable, make it look prettier than the default does. And I think it's really cool that they're bringing Flow in to automate some of that process. What they're basically saying is, user has a random site, they like this hub site that you've built, and they want to join it to basically absorb the design that you've put in there.
And the navigation and all that
navigation,
kind of
all that stuff, right? Like all the look and feel. They're starting to bring an automation to that, which again, like we talked about this a little bit before when we talked about Flow. Anywhere that they can find uses for automation, I think it's great. I think especially for the modern IT administrator, which has 10,000 jobs and 8 hours in a day, anytime you can bring automation to it is amazing. And I specifically like the idea of doing Flow in a much more assigned way, so you don't have to go out and find Flow and find what you need. They're developing solutions for their products with the automation. I think that's great.
Yeah, and I like it because quite honestly, it's a little bit of a wild, wild west right now. A lot of people can go create sites. A lot of people can go do different things, and we want to empower them. We want them to be able to go do that. But at the same time, if I've spent all this time coming up with this hub structure and stuff like that, I want to make sure that I can protect that, but I still need to give people admin controls. And so it's a balancing act. And so being able to have the hub sites using Flow for approval just gives us one more tool where we can, protect the things we're working with, but still empower people. So it's this great mix between the things. So I'm excited to see that one rolling out. So again, that should be hitting things pretty soon. And then
I think the last one is the one you're probably the most excited about, if I'm not overstepping here. So there's one more thing in rolling out that I know you talked about, and I'll introduce it, then I'll kind of set the stage for you because I know you really care about it. Basically, it was a new feature they're rolling out for OneDrive that will allow you to block the download of files, which is actually kind of a step away from accessibility, more making it security and protection. I know you thought it was really cool. So
yeah, I think it's really cool because I want to be able to give someone a file where they can open it online, but maybe not necessarily download it and make changes to it. And so I'm really excited to see that coming to files in SharePoint and OneDrive. I think it's both rolling out to both of them. At least I know there's 2 roadmap items for it. So I'm really excited about that one.
Is the SharePoint framework, right? So
usually it comes to one and then the other, so they're not far behind. But I think that's a really great way, and it's a security thing and a safety thing, something that we can train users how to do. I can share a link with someone, but I still have a little bit of control over it. And so I'm excited to see that one coming out. And I was actually shocked as you were saying that because I was like, what is he setting me up for? But then I realized the other admin thing is actually in the, hey, it's already launched category.
Yeah. So Jen kind of talked about this earlier, right? So they add something to the roadmap, and initially it goes on and in development. And that means that they are looking into it. They've officially announced their intentions that they're working on it, and they are doing the secret sauce on the back end. Stage 2 is it goes into rolling out. That means they're comfortable with what they've done, and they're starting to bring it to the forefront in 365. Oftentimes it's where you see the people that are in first release, and it goes to some tenants and not others. and there's still a lot of tweaking. So then that takes us to the last phase of the roadmap, which is actually launch, which means they've done their testing, they've gone through it, and they're now actually bringing stuff to general availability for users. So now we're going to talk about some of the stuff that has recently gone into launch that we really like to see and really think is kind of cool coming out. So I guess I'll go ahead and start with one that I thought was really cool. So you guys have kind of known I've talked a little bit about how much I like security and the direction they're going. I overlooked this the first time I looked at the roadmap, and Jim had done a wonderful job with Power Pivot and Excel kind of bringing stuff. When I saw this, I was like, wait a second. So basically, they're now bringing DLP availability to Microsoft 365 Business. So this is Microsoft 365. So this includes, Windows 10 and everything else they're doing. But to me, this is huge. Up until now, the only way you got DLP was by buying enterprise licensing. And granted, you could buy enterprise licensing if you're one person, but it was always more expensive and always had other things there. So a lot of companies were going out and looking at business licensing and wanting to do. And to be honest, whenever I worked in the job of, hey, having to help advise people on what licensing they need, some people went to enterprise licensing, specifically E3 or higher, specifically to get this data loss prevention protection. So the fact that they are now pivoting there and trying to make it more readily accessible to users, I think is great, because I think DLP has a purpose in almost every organization.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. So that, again, it's launched, so that should be in your tenant. If that's something you're interested in, definitely go check it out. Should be there now. The other one that we have, and I think this is really cool because I think there's a plethora of information when it comes to Office 365. And I think in the very beginning, way back when Office 365 first came out, we were starving for information. We were starving for notifications. And we're like, tell us more, tell us more. Now we get so much information.
Now you're drowning in information.
That we're like, holy crap, just tell me what's important to me. And so one thing that they've launched out is email notifications and message center preferences for customized admin roles. And so we all know that every organization is going to have a little bit of a different team managing their environment, and if I'm going to send one person 22 messages and only 3 apply to them, they're probably going to miss the 3 that apply to them. And so that's something that's rolled out now, where you can kind of go in and customize that and set preferences based on those roles, so certain roles can get certain messages. And I think that's a really cool new feature.
Yeah, it's one thing. As a whole, I like to see the customization of admin roles. I think this is just more of like, the whipped cream on top of the sundae that is our back controls in Office 365 as a whole. But I love to see that they are making stuff more targeted to specific roles and organizations. And as you said, let's be honest, I am completely guilty of this. Those messages either go into my clutter or go into my unfocused inbox based on what view I'm viewing it from, right? So most of the time, those are going into a thing where, I don't even look at unfocused mail on my phone, right? So very much, I think the idea of being able to go and target this is going to be much better. And I think you just scratched the surface of where this is going to be awesome. If you're an organization, you have a help desk role, well, you don't care about the new features and stuff going down. But if they're making changes to the support options that are in Microsoft, if they're making changes in some basic functionality that you use in your organization, you want those people to know that. So the fact that you can now go and filter out the junk that you don't want them to see is really more, to me, almost a way to highlight the stuff that is important and make it more meaningful. I think it's great.
Yeah, definitely. And then finally, the last one, and I just think this is cool. I think we've talked about this maybe even a few times on the Pulse already, but hub sites and like the events roll-up part. And so the news roll-up has been there for a while, and I really like that because in hub sites, you can do a news roll-up and all the news pages will come up from all the hubs. Now you can do events. That's fantastic because let's say you have a corporate intranet site, and then you have site collections, communication sites for HR and maybe one for marketing, and well, now the events can roll up into the main site there. So that's going to be a really great addition there, and so that is going to be now available. So that should be fully launched and rolled out and ready for everybody. Yeah, so I'm excited about that.
I feel stuff like that's just making someone's job wait. Like, there's like administrative assistants out there that spend a day a month going through and scouring all the different SharePoint pages inside of their department to figure out the events going on and put together a calendar of everything. And now they have a button that will do that for them, and they can get back to more meaningful work. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely saves time, and I think it makes the story for modern and why should I be using modern communication sites? Why should I be using hubs? It makes it a much better story. It's starting to have all of those pieces, and so when you start to combine those with the things we already talked about that are in development and different things like that, it's just really a great overall experience. And so those are kind of our updates for this week. I feel like we have talked about a lot in just 23 minutes, but I think we've got some good highlights for everybody of, hey, these are the things that hit the roadmap. These are some of the changes that made, and hey, watch out for them. So I'm kind of really, really excited about it. So
good week overall. Whole bunch of good changes. I still think the shock is still there with the rollout secure score, but I think Jen's right. I think over the next couple weeks, we'll probably see other items start to come out and see other intentions and announcements. We'll make sure to highlight that whenever those weeks come so we're aware of it. But all in all, really good week. And I love going through and really looking at these because, I mean, literally doing research on my own, I missed some of these the first time I looked out around. And so awesome to see some stuff they're doing, some of the direction they're going.
very cool. Well, yeah, I have an email I'm going to go send right now about the secure score to see if we can get some more details on what's going on. But anyway, Adam, it was so great chatting with
Wonderful
you
to have
today.
you back, Jen.
Yeah, I'm so excited, and we will have a show again next week and let you know of all the changes that happened from this week to next. So thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, guys.